But my goals are I would love to be a full-time content creator by the end of this year. That would be a big time goal for me. Now again, we just talked about it. That would involve me getting off my ass a little bit and doing more on my own side of things. Love
Yeah.
wrestling. We have people that help us there. Pluggo helps me there on Between Two Beards. When I'm talking strictly like the JPJ loves gaming side of it and things like that, that's on me. I can't expect other people to help me there.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Talk Trash, and stand back with another interview. This time, I'm joined by a very good friend of mine. I'm joined by the one and only JPJ from Between Two Beards, formerly AEW on Love Wrestling. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you, my friend. I'm glad to be back. It's been a little bit since I've been on here, but the last couple times we've done this has been a lot of fun, so I'm excited.
I'm very excited to have you back on, my friend. So, if we take this back, where do you first discover wrestling as an overall fan for people that may not know?
Oh boy. I don't know how. I think my grandfather used to watch it, but I it was like I want to say 1992 was the first year that I remember watching wrestling. Like SummerSlam 92 in Wembley
Mm.
with Brett and Davey Boy in the main event for the IC title, and you had Flair and Savage and things like that. I remember that being the first big event seeing, like where I kind of like liked some of the performers, understood what was going on. Survivor Series later that year had Mr. Perfect kind of turning on Ric Flair and aligning with the Macho Man Randy Savage and fighting Flair and Razor Ramon. I want to say young
I
Razor Ramon in the
believe
main
so.
event there. Like that whole sequence of like SummerSlam through the end of that year, I feel like was when I started fully being like, oh, I'm a wrestling fan. I loved Macho Man Randy Savage. I loved Bret Hart. I was a kid, so I liked Mr. Perfect. Um, yeah, that's the first time I can remember. And then, when the Attitude Era and Stone Cold and all those guys came around, you're talking, I'm like 11, 12, 13
Mm.
years old. Like
You're
I'm
the
in the height
perfect
of
age,
my,
really.
oh my God, yeah. And it was like, okay, this is my favorite thing on the planet. Stone Cold Steve Austin is my favorite person on the planet. I am, you know, I was the kid that went to back when videotape rental stores were a thing. They don't exist anymore, but like back when they were a thing, like on Fridays, my parents would go and rent whatever movie they were going to watch, and they would let me rent a video game and rent an old wrestling tape. And I would just spend the weekend watching an old Survivor series from like the late 80s, early 90s, or an old SummerSlam or old Mania. That's how I watched all that old stuff. Is I would go to the video stores and they would have the old section of old wrestling tapes, Coliseum Video, and I'd be like, okay, what am I renting this weekend? We're gonna go watch 6 hours of this weekend because I was 10 and I had nothing to do. So,
What
but yeah.
what was the tape or yeah, it would have been tape back then. What was the tape that you were like, I've worn this out, but I don't care. I'm gonna watch it again. I'm gonna watch it again.
Um, I mean, I when I first started like renting things like that to kind of just watch, like I wasn't a tape trader or anything like that. Like I wasn't one of those people. I hear those stories and I wish I was, but I think I
Mm.
was a little too young at the time that was kind of the height of everything. Um, but I was a huge fan of the Survivor Series matches when I was a kid, the 5-on-5s with the special teams, because back then they would put five random people together, but they would like give them a team name and they would have this corny little team name. And they would like, I was big into those and I was big into the Royal Rumbles, still am big into the Royal Rumbles. Who doesn't love a Royal Rumble? But,
Mm.
I remember those eight, like SummerSlam. No, I'm sorry. Survivor Series 1990, Survivor Series 1991. I feel like I've watched those events a dozen times each, probably, maybe more, sadly. But like, I was a huge fan of the old Survivor Series gimmick where the whole event was these 4 or 5 man tags. And like, there used to be very rarely, there was one world title match and the rest were all these special attraction tag matches with teams and people teaming up that you never saw before. So that was stuff that really I dug early on in my fandom.
What would do you think? You talked about your early fandom there. What do you think young JPJ would think of wrestling currently?
I mean, it's different. It's different. I'm not sure. I mean, I like where they're going now currently, especially like on the main programs, WWE and even AEW and things like that. Like, I feel like I would, if I was a young kid falling upon wrestling now, I feel like I would still become a fan. It's just much more different. Back then, when I first started being a wrestling fan, it was gimmicks, and there was Duke the Dumpster Drosy, and
Mm.
there was Bastion Booger, and there were Doink the Clown, and there were all these over the top gimmicks where I feel like that just doesn't exist. And there are gimmicks still, obviously, and everybody's playing a character, of sorts, but I feel like it's a lot more, the characters are a lot more real now. They feel like real people turned up to 11 or 12.
Yeah.
Whereas when I first started watching wrestling, these were not like, Bret Hart was a real guy. Shawn Michaels was a real guy. Ric Flair was a real guy. The rest of them, the head shrinkers, Bam Bam Bigelow, like Doink the Clown, Duke, like I said, Duke the Dumpster Drosy, Razor Ramon, all these guys were like characters among characters. They were like
Mm.
full blown characters. So I feel like it's a little different now. But I grew up a sports kid, so like I appreciate all aspects of it. I appreciate the athleticness and the athleticism you need to be good at it. And then I appreciate that these people are like not only top tier athletes, but they have to be actors as
Mm.
well. And so I feel like I still would have really like, I mean, I still love it now, even though I'm an old man. So like, I feel like if I walked upon it as a kid now, I would still be all about it. It would just be different, which is a different type of thing now.
What about if we flip the question and as an adult, you have no prior wrestling knowledge and things like that? And what about if we flip it and say, what would adult JPJ think of the wrestling he discovered as a child?
I mean, I feel like for me at this point, being a, almost 40-year-old guy, I'm stuck and stubborn in my ways. Now I'm open minded, but I am stubborn. I like what I like. I know what I like, or I feel like I know what I like. So I feel like nowadays, if all of a sudden I had not watched wrestling for the first 37 years of my life, and
Mm.
somebody was like, "Hey, watch this wrestling with me," my initial the way I know I initially would react would be like, if I don't watch wrestling myself, you're not going to get me into wrestling. Like, I know what I like. Like, I would have watched it if I wanted to watch it. Um, but knowing who I am, like, I would give it a shot, and probably I would like it. I would probably like it. Again, it kind of, I'm a big time movie and TV guy. I like drama. I like comedy. It has everything I want. Like, it has the storylines. I feel like now we're talking post WrestleMania 40. Now we're
Yeah.
recording post WrestleMania 40. I feel like now the storylines are juicy again. I feel like they're good. They're layered. They're good. Um, and at the end of the day, it's a soap opera where at the end they beat the crap out of each other. So I feel like I probably would have come around to it, but I'm a stubborn guy, so I'm not going to say that I would definitely have loved it as much as I do now if I had not been watching it these last, you know, 30 years or so.
Mm. You talked about the fact that we're recording this post WrestleMania 40 weekend and stuff like that. I was on a stream this past weekend with you and your great co-host is Pluggo, and he was talking about all the great wrestling we get to watch now and
Yeah.
where wrestling is now and things like that. And then you was just talking about that there. So where is your current fandom, Jay, as we record this in April of 2024?
I mean, it's still pretty high, man. I do a couple, you know, there was once a time where if wrestling was on, the rest of my life didn't matter. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, if it was a Monday night and my friends were asking me to go hang out and have fun, I was like, "Hey guys, sorry, it's Monday. I'm not available tonight because I'm watching Raw." And
Mm.
that was a good amount of time in my life where I would like, "Hey, if you want to hang out with me, you don't ask me to hang out on Mondays, Fridays." Well, Fridays were a little different. I never really stayed, but you know what I mean. You didn't ask me to hang out on wrestling nights because you knew
Mm.
I was busy. So my fandom is still the same. I'm still as passionate. I'm probably more passionate about it now. Um, but I have a different perspective now.
Mm.
If I have plans to go hang out with some friends, or I got a family thing going on and it's a pay-per-view day, or it's something like that, like I'm not frustrated that I have to go to this thing. Or I'm not like, oh, sorry, I got to leave this thing early because I got to get home and watch. You know what I mean? Like my perspective is a little different. Like I view life as more important than wrestling, right?
Mm.
But at the same time, I really love wrestling. And if you would have told me 30 years ago that eventually, even if it's for a handful of people, which luckily Pluggo and I, we have an audience that is greater than that. So I'm very thankful for the things I get to do. But if you would have told me that I would be watching the same amount of wrestling that I've been doing since I was a kid, but now I get to chop it up a few, like once a week with Pluggo for a few hours, once a week with Drew for a few hours, occasionally hopping on interviews with people like you or other people, having people want to come on our shows, like reaching out to us to see if they can hop on our show. Like that's crazy to me. You know what I mean? So like, if you would have told me that was happening, I would have told you I didn't believe you, but I would have told you that I'm right where I need to be. But my fandom is still very high. Like I enjoyed WrestleMania. I thought this past weekend and last week really was a great week for wrestling. Did I
Mm.
think I do look at when we're talking strictly about WrestleMania that just happened, right? The excitement is amazing. It does feel like a new era of WWE. They crowned a new champion, a guy that we've wanted to be champion for a while now, or most of us have.
Yeah.
So it feels like, hey, this is like a new beginning or truly a new era of WWE. So I understand the excitement of everything. And the WrestleMania was a lot of fun. Do I think WrestleMania was as great as a lot of people are saying it was? No, I do not. I thought it was a very good WrestleMania, but there wasn't one great match to me that happened on WrestleMania weekend. Now, if you're asking me if there were great moments, there were a whole plethora
Mm.
of great moments. Rhea and Becky, great moment there. Sami Zayn winning the IC title, great moment. Cody Rhodes, obviously, and I'm a Cody Mark. I've been yelling on Beards for a year that they should have gave it to him last year, right? I'm a big Cody Rhodes guy. That main event was fun as hell. It was everything you can love about pro wrestling. Was it a great match? Not even close. Not even close. Like it was a average to good match, maybe. Not really though. There was all the other stuff that happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I
Um,
said. I
you,
said
yeah, go ahead.
crowd reaction. I
Yeah,
said this on a stream that I popped in on last night as we record this. I was
mm-hmm.
like, a great, a good match elevated by the crowd reaction. So it was great in some ways.
Yeah.
I compared it to Rock Hogan, believe it or not.
Okay, you could do that. Yeah, because Rock Hogan, that match itself, people don't remember that because of the actual match. They remember that because it was a spectacle, and that crowd was maybe the best crowd of any match in WrestleMania history.
Mm.
Period. That's why they remember that, because that crowd was so invested in that match. If that was an empty arena and you watch that match back, you would say, all right, I'd be like, that was a pretty good match. That was a pretty good match. But
Mm.
everything that happened with it was really why that match is considered one of the best WrestleMania matches of all time, you know? And again, like, that's not me poo-pooing on WrestleMania. WrestleMania was great. And I am excited, just like everybody else, about the future and where WWE is going, because I do really think they are going to take the next, like, they're taking a leap here, and they've been on fire. I think they're going to continue to be on fire.
Mm.
And I'm very excited about where it's going. Um, yeah, I just think, like, when you're in it and it's the time, and, like, I think WWE fans have become so accustomed with not getting what they want because of the previous regime, where they only did things for what he wanted and
Yeah.
not what the fans wanted, that when we had an event like WrestleMania where the fans got a lot of what we wanted, it elevates how we view things, because we're not used to
Ah.
getting rewarded for watching the show. We're not
Mm.
used to seeing everything happen the way it should, or the way we think it should, because one guy was booking the show for one guy. He wasn't
Mm.
booking it for me and you, Tom. He was booking it for what he wanted. And now we have a guy running the show that's booking it for the greater good. He's booking it for everybody. And I think that's why WWE is kind of where they're at right now, because fans feel like, hey, I'm going to invest my 5 or 6 hours a week and watch these programs, but I'm going to see what I want to see. I'm
Mm.
not going to just be sitting here watching this and not getting any fulfillment out of it because nothing's happening that I want to happen.
Mm.
Does
I
that make sense?
understand. Yeah, 100%, man. So you talked about there, obviously, your fandom of WWE being where it is and the fact that you feel WWE is in a good place. What do you watch outside of wrestling? Obviously, I know the answer, but it's good content.
Outside of, well, I'm a big sports guy. So I'm in the Boston area. So I'm a big Boston sports guy. So the Red Sox just started. They stink, but they just started. Celtics and Bruins are getting ready to make playoff runs, hopefully. Bruins usually choke, so I'm not expecting them to do anything. But so I'm a big sports guy. I watch all the sports. Like we're recording behind the curtain. We're recording on a Thursday afternoon, my time, early afternoon. Like the Masters golf tournament is starting today. It like is literally starting as we speak. Like,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm a big time sports guy. I watch all sorts of sports. I've been binge watching Succession.
Oh, what a
Yeah,
show.
I'm on the last season. It's phenomenal. Great show. I always heard that it was one of the better shows to come out in the last, little bit here. Yeah, it's very, very good. Um, I try to go to the movies as much as I can, but ever since COVID, I kind of lost my movie routine. I need to get back in the swing of things. But I'm a normal dude. Like I watch a lot of sports. I watch TV shows. Once I'm done with Succession, I'll probably find a new drama of sorts to kind of binge watch here. Um, but yeah, man, I watch a lot of stuff. I'm a big, as you can tell, I'm a big food person. So I do watch the
Mm.
Food Network a lot. I do watch like food competition shows. Big fan of Top Chef. I've been a big fan of Top Chef my whole life. Um, yeah. So I watch. I'm an eclectic viewer. I watch a little bit of everything. I would say the only thing I really don't watch a lot of is like basic cable sitcoms or TV shows or so. Like I don't really watch a ton of that, but like HBO, all those shows, I've seen them all. I'm finishing Succession now, like we talked about. But it's
Mm.
really sports centric. I do watch a ton of sports. Like if there's not wrestling on and I'm just kind of hanging around the house, there's some sort of sport match game. There's something going on in the background of the TV while I'm kind of just hanging out.
That's very, very cool, my friend. So you obviously talked about the sport and everything that you watch and your love of WWE. But what wrestling do you watch outside of WWE at the moment? Like, where
I
is your fandom overall
Yeah,
on
I watch AEW. So I've been a regular viewer of AEW since it started. I obviously do, Between Two Beards is the flagship show. I've been doing that with Pluggo. We're coming. I think the one we record this week might be 150. I think we're coming up on
I think it is, yeah.
150 episodes or something like that, either this week or next week.
Which
So
is
we've been doing
crazy
that.
because my episode, the first one I was ever on, was like 32. So we've
Yeah,
known each other for ages.
yeah. So me and Pluggo, we've been doing that for almost 3 years now. So that's my I don't like to call it my main show, but that's like the flagship show of Love Wrestling. That's the show I've been doing the longest. But on Sunday mornings in the States, me and Drew, my buddy Drew Nicholas, we do a show called Firmly AEW that you mentioned earlier. And that's strictly just on AEW. So I watch AEW. I've always watched AEW since it started. I've always been kind of the AEW guy for Love Wrestling. Used to
Mm.
have a show called The War Report. Um, which I watched AEW and NXT when they were going against each other, and we would kind of review the shows that way. So I'm a huge fan of AEW. Um, I the independents I could be better with. I do watch GCW. If there's a big event of GCW, I'll watch it. Last week with the collective and all that stuff, I watched a lot of independent wrestling in Philly that was going on, a lot of GCW stuff. TNA, I don't pay attention to that much. Ring of Honor is on at the same time that Beards is on, and I don't pay for Honor Club, so I don't watch Ring of Honor. And then New Japan, I keep an eye on. I watch Wrestle Kingdom every year. I'll watch the G1 every year. But other than that, I don't really. I mean, North American wrestling, WWE and AEW are really the ones that I keep up with on a weekly basis. Like I make sure I watch the shows.
Before we get into your work with Love Wrestling, because we always talk about things like that on this show, how people became content creators and things. You talk about all the wrestling you watch by choice and things like that. How do you make sure though that JPJ is still a wrestling fan? And also, how do you avoid getting burned out on wrestling?
It's hard. It's hard. There's sometimes that I just look at. Sometimes you just got to turn it off, man. You know what I mean? Like if you're not if it's a Wednesday. Now, don't get me wrong. I get jacked up for Dynamite every week, right? I'm just going to use this as an example. But if it's a Wednesday night and I'm feeling a little and I don't feel like watching wrestling, I don't have to watch like old JPJ 10 years ago. JPJ would have been like, you're sitting here and you're watching Dynamite. Because if you miss something, you're going to hate yourself for missing something or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. You know what I mean? Um, you got to turn it off sometimes. You know, it's hard, especially like, and I don't talk to a million people every week doing beards, right? We talk to our, 20, 30 on a good week, 50, 100, we talk to our smaller audience, but I feel like I need to I need to be prepared. I need to be ready to go for beards and firmly AEW. So I have to watch the stuff. I can't half-ass it because that's not who I am. But sometimes there's weeks where I'm just like, not but like, there's days or weeks where I'm just like, you know what, I'm not really like in a wrestling mood
Yeah.
to sit down and watch Raw for 3 hours tonight. You know what I mean? And like it took a long time to train myself to be like, hey, dude, it's okay if you just want to play video games tonight,
Mm.
or you just want to watch the Monday Night Football game instead of Raw. You can watch Raw tomorrow after work or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can, and I think it's a lot easier nowadays in today's world to like not watch something and just easily watch it at a different time. When I was younger, that was not the case. I used to literally record Raw on VHS tapes.
Yeah.
That's how you used to be. That's how you would, if you were missing Raw, that's how you would be able to watch it. There wasn't a Hulu to go watch a 90-minute version the next day, or there wasn't a DVR where I could just put it on at any time. You know what I mean? So, um, I think there are certain times where if I'm feeling burnt out or I'm feeling like, okay, you've been watching a lot of wrestling, you need a break here, you just got to step away.
Mm.
Just got to step away, take a day to yourself, do some things you want to do, have some fun, work on a project, do something. And then when you're back in the, like, I'm a wrestling fan. It's not like I'm going to be out of the mood forever. Just sometimes wrestling's a lot. There's a lot of wrestling to watch. There's a lot to consume, and there's not a lot of time to consume it all. So I think you really need to have a perspective of like what your schedule is going to be when you're watching what you need to watch or what you want to watch. And then you also need to make time to like make sure you do things that like aren't wrestling related.
Mm.
And like, you know, that can be hard sometimes because you're like, oh shit, there's wrestling on every night, Tom. There's wrestling.
Mm.
If you really wanted to, you could find a wrestling program to watch literally 7 days a week. But I feel like if you were to do that, wrestling would change for you, right? Like it
Yeah.
would be, it would, your relationship with wrestling would change. So I feel like in order to keep that relationship strong, you need to back away from it every so often and just take a breather and just go do some other stuff.
You talked about their relationship with wrestling, and you also talked about 10 years ago, JPJ. What was the moment that you were like, I think wrestling's consumed me, and I need to
Uh,
maybe do other things?
I'm not going to say I had like an individual moment like that. I just like, I don't know. When I was in the when I was in my I stepped away from wrestling and stopped
Mm.
watching it regularly like in my early 20s. Like as I was finishing college, as all my friends were finishing college, like and we were looking for our first like real jobs and things like that, like I wanted to go out and party and I wanted to go out and have a good time and I wanted to meet people. I wanted to meet girls. I wanted to do these things and staying home on a Monday or a Thursday or a Friday or a Saturday or Sunday for a pay-per-view. Like if there was an opportunity to go out and have a good time, go out drinking with my friends or go to a whatever, like I wasn't, I was like, this is more important than wrestling to me at this moment. So I stepped away for a little bit. Um, but I wouldn't say there's an individual moment. I don't know. I just feel like I love wrestling. I'm always gonna want to watch wrestling. Raw has been conditioned that Monday nights you watch Raw, dude. I've been watching Raw since 1993. That's
Yeah.
31 years. You know, like that is just accustomed to me and things like that. So, um, I wouldn't say there was a dedicated moment where I was like, okay, you need to back off here and you need to take a step back or anything like that. It's just as you get older, you mature. I'm an uncle now. My sister had a baby boy like a little over a year ago. So I have a nephew now that I want to make time for. You just get older and life happens, right? You start a family,
Yeah.
you have kids, you get a full-time job that demands a lot of your time. You do all these things and like at the end of the day, unless you're somebody that's making money and this is your job doing this, which if that could happen, A plus, dude, I would love for that to happen. But right now, where I'm constituted is this is just something I really love doing. And it's something that I love being able to talk with Pluggo every week. I love being able to talk with Drew every week. I love doing interviews with people like you. I love hopping on the other Love Wrestling streams and chatting up with Spencer and Zach and Blair. And I do the streams over with Josh Robinson on his channel. He's become one of my best friends. Like, I love doing this shit. If this stuff could become a income and a job for me, that would be the dream. But that's not the case for me currently, and that's not the case for everybody. So you need to do what's important in your life that makes your life the best. And you need to live your best life. And if living your best life is, hey, I have time to watch Raw and Raw only any week, then God bless you, man. Go do it. Do what you got to
Mm.
do. Or if you have more time like me, where you're like, you know what, I'm going to watch wrestling 3 or 4 times a week because that's what I do. Cool, man. It's really whatever works for you. And I feel like I have found a good balance where I watch the wrestling that I watch. I'm able to really have fun and talk about the wrestling that I talk about on my shows, but I still get to see the people that matter the most to me and get to do the things that matter the most to me outside of this wrestling space. And it took a while to figure that out over the last 3.5 years that I've started doing content and things like that. But I feel like I'm in my wheelhouse where I've kind of found what works for me, and I'm really enjoying it, man.
You talk about really enjoying making content and wanting this to be full time. So how was Love Wrestling your first sort of content gig? How did you join Love Wrestling and things like that?
Yeah, Love Wrestling was. I mean, I had done wrestling podcasts here or there with like my friends, but nothing real. A couple episodes here or there talking about a big event or the summer of punk and things like that way back in the day and stuff like that. But Love Wrestling was my first, and I wasn't expecting anything to come of it either. Like they had just started on New Year's Day of 2021, so we were still very much in the pandemic era.
Hmm.
Um, and they had just started. They were doing their Quizplex show, which once a month goes after Beards on Thursday nights. I think it's the third Thursday of every month now. It used to be the last Thursday, but it's the third
Hmm.
Thursday now. And I had seen Spencer Love. He's the guy who helped create Love Wrestling, hence the name. I had seen him do a couple interviews on other outlets, one with Mr. Warren Hayes, who's a good friend of mine, crazy that I've become a friend with him in this through this stuff. A couple with like Fightful, I think, and like early on stages of Fightful and things like that. And I had liked his vibe. I liked his energy. I liked his like rock and roll music references. Like I just liked him. So I ended up following him. And through him, I had seen the Love Wrestling thing. So I followed it. And I want to say it was like February. They were like a month in and they were looking for people to be on Quizplex. So they threw a trivia question on the Twitter. I answered it. They messaged me and were like, hey man, you were the first one to answer this. Do you want to be on a trivia show on Thursday night? And I was like, yeah, why not? That's fun.
Hmm.
So I did the trivia show. Um, I finished second. I should have won. I'm still upset. I'm too competitive, so I'm still upset that I lost 3 years later. But I finished second. The next day, it was under the Love Wrestling thing, but I think it was Spencer. He sent me out a message on Twitter, basically saying, "Hey, that was a lot of fun last night. You were great. Thanks for being a part of it." And just in that moment, I don't know what did it for me, but I was just like, you know what, dude, like, just do it. So I just said, hey, that was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me. And I just threw it out there like, if you're ever looking for somebody to hop on a review show or a preview show, just kind of like if you don't have anybody,
Yeah.
remember me. Cause I went to school for radio and TV broadcasting. So I feel like I know how to talk. I feel like I went to school too. Like I wanted to be a sports radio guy in Boston. Like that's was my dream job when I was a teenager. Still is a dream technically, but it's, you know, it's hard to get into that industry sometimes. But like, I had a background of it. I've been watching wrestling my whole life. If there's a spot for me or somebody bows out and you need a quick replacement, holler at me. I would love to do something like that. And that turned into Spencer saying, "Hey man, let's have a Zoom meeting like tomorrow." And we had a Zoom meeting, and we kind of really introduced ourselves to each other, had a 10-minute conversation just about wrestling and things like that. And then I leaned in more and I said, "Hey man, like, yeah, like I said, if you ever need a co-host or you need this or that, remember me, because I would love to give this a whirl." And in that moment, he was like, "What do you think about joining the website, like, and working for the site?"
Oh
And I
wow.
was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "We're a new site. We want new faces." And he goes, "And you were great last night, or you were great the other night. You were funny. You knew your shit. Like, if you want to do this, like, we'll bring you on, and you have time to think about an idea or whatever. But like, we'll bring you on. Like, we want new faces." And I was like, "Hell yeah, dude." And three and a
Mm.
half, you know, a little over 3 years later, you know, I think I am one, and I don't say this like from a bragging standpoint. I do, but I don't say this from a
Yeah.
bragging standpoint. But like, I feel like if you're a supporter of Love Wrestling and you enjoy what we do, whether it's on the LPW side, which that wrestling, if you haven't watched that LPW, the wrestling side of it, you are
Mm.
missing out, man, because that is some of the best
Oh, I
wrestling you will
agree.
see. Like, and I'm not just tooting the whole, like, that is the last Friday of every month, you will be hard pressed to find a better wrestling show than what LPW has been putting on the last 24. I think we just had LPW 24. So the last 24 events that we've done.
Mm.
And I just say that great people, the shows are great. But if you're a fan of Love Wrestling, like, I consider myself to be one of, at this point, like, me and Pluggo are two of the main faces of Love Wrestling. We're two of
Yeah.
the flagship people with Spencer and Zach and Josh, and we got a great crew that work there. But if, like, we're talking 3 years over now, and me and Pluggo are two of the longest tenured people in the history of
Yeah.
Love Wrestling, which is crazy to think about. It's crazy to think about, you know.
Mm. So you brought up Pluggo a few times. How do you connect with Pluggo, and how do you start the Between Two Beards show?
Oh boy. So it was 2021. It was that first year. I had been brought on in February. But I was kind of floating around. I didn't have my own show right away. Um I was
Mm.
kind of doing the Sunday brunch gimmick. I would pop on, and back then it was called Sunday brunch. Now it's called the brunch gimmick. But it was called Sunday brunch back then, and I would hop on there weekly, and then I would hop on to react shows here or there, but I didn't have like my own show, right?
Mm.
And so it was WrestleMania 2021. It was the first time, you know, they were going back to a live crowd for Mania. They weren't in the performance center like they had to in 2020. And I remember Love Wrestling. We were all just like, "Hey man, we got to go big for this Mania week. Like, it's our first
Mm.
Mania week. Like, we want shit every night. Like, we want a Raw reacts. We want an NXT reacts. We want a SmackDown. We want both nights of Mania." So we were bringing in a lot of fresh new faces. And Pluggo, who I did not know at the time, was one of them. And I want to say I did both nights of Mania reacts. I want to say he only did one, but whatever night of
I
Mania that we,
believe he did the first night,
yes, I
based
was
on what
on.
he told me.
Yes, I did both, I believe, but I think he only did the one. But the one that we were on together, I just liked his vibe. I just liked his vibe. I felt like it was very similar to me. I view Pluggo as, we are very much alike, but Pluggo is like at an 11 or 12, and I'm like an 8 or 9 all the time.
What,
Now,
what
when
as
I
in
get,
like being upbeat?
yeah, I feel like Pluggo is a little bit more. I feel like I'm like a more laid back version of Pluggo, if that
Mm.
makes sense. Like, he's a
Yeah.
little bit more like, you know, he's the guy shooting off fireworks and like spitting water out and like, you know, being like, and I love him for that. And that, you know, whereas I'm the guy that's a curmudgeon and I'm going to yell about things. Like,
Mm.
that's who I am. Right. So I feel like we, we kind of fit each other very, very well. And then I also feel like,
Sorry, that's
yeah,
very unprofessional.
hey man, whatever, dude. Life goes fast, bro. Life goes
Mm.
fast. No, but like, yeah, I feel like we just kind of fit each other really well, but I filled his vibe. Like I liked his energy. I felt like if I knew this guy, we'd be friends. That's kind of like, that was my
Mm.
mentality. Like, oh, and it was only like a 2 hour conversation, and there were like four of us, but I could
Yeah.
tell right away. I was like, I feel like I could talk to this guy a lot, and like we would get along. And if we knew each other in real life, we would be friends. That's how I
Mm.
felt. And then we hopped on a couple reacts again, like over the next month or so. And I just shot him a message on our Slack, and I was like, hey man, I was like, I know you're newer around here, but like I was like, I really liked your vibe. I really like chatting with you. If you have any ideas for a show, I would be down to do something with you. But I was very much leaving it up to him, because I think at that point I had been doing the War Report, which was like my show with my buddy Matt, who no longer is in Love Wrestling, but my buddy Matt, the
Mm.
franchise, and that was really an AEW NXT review show when they were going against each other. And then Plugger was like, "Hey man, like I would love to do a show with you. What do you think about like a weekly show where we just talk about like all the wrestling stuff, but we kind of keep it laid back, fun. We'll do some games, maybe drafts or kind of things like this." And I was like, that sounds like a blast, man. And we just talked it through for a few weeks. He came up, I think he was the one that came up with the name, and was immediately like, that makes sense. They obviously a play on the Between Two Ferns with Zach Galifianakis and that whole thing. So that worked. We pitched it to Spencer. Spencer doesn't really say no to me and Pluggo, really, because he knows we're going to do things the right way, even if it sounds goofy at the start. Like we've built that trust with him that he knows we're going to do right by him and do right by Love Wrestling and things.
Mm.
Yeah, and that was it. We had our first show, and like I said, now we're approaching 150. Still have never met Pluggo in real life.
That is still crazy to me.
That's
But I
so
think it shows the world that we live in because
yeah,
like
I agree.
you can do a podcast with someone, you can because how many times have we connected now? Three, at least 10, I think,
Oh
if we
yeah.
include the streams.
Oh
And
yeah.
like,
Oh yeah.
and I say this to you and Plug all the time. We have never met in person, but in the wrestling community, you two are two of my best friends
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
community.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think it's a lot. I've never met Josh Robinson in person. He lives across the friggin'. I mean, you do. You're in England, so you don't live down the street. You know what I
No.
mean? Josh is in Australia. He's literally across the world from me. And if I had to make a short list of my best friends that I've made the last handful of years, like you, Pluggo, Spencer, Josh, and I'm not, people who I don't name, that doesn't mean that I don't view you in this realm. But I'm just off the top of my
Yeah.
head, like those are four of my closest friends that I've made in the last 2 or 3 years. And I've met Spencer 2 times in real life. But other than that, I haven't met any of you. I've only know you through this world of talking in a screen on a screen to you. And I see Pluggo live once a week, every week for the most part. And we talk probably 3 to 4 other times a week in the Slack, or just messaging each other about ideas and things like that. But like, I had the luxury of going up to Edmonton earlier on this year in January for the Oil Rumble here. And that was the one thing, as I was meeting all the LPW guys and girls, was they were asking me about Pluggo. And I would say, oh, I was like, I'm meeting you guys for the first time, and I still haven't met that guy. And they're all like, you guys don't know each other? And I was like, no. And they were like, that's crazy. Like, you guys seem like your best friend. Like, you guys seem like you would have known each other for your whole lives.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, literally have never met him in person. Not once. Not a handshake, not a hug, nothing. And they were like, that's crazy. They couldn't believe it. They were like, it seems like you guys literally would have known each other your whole lives. And I was like, that's just the beauty of it, man. That's the magic of it. One day I will meet him, and I will give him a big ass hug, and I'll lift him off the ground. But
Mm.
that time hasn't happened yet, Tom.
I was about to say, do you think that meeting will happen in person?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Will we ever get a
But
in-person episode of Between Two Bids?
I would love it. I would love it. Maybe even later this year. You never know. But
Mm.
I would love it. I think with the success of Love Wrestling on the LPW side and the content side, we're growing still. We got onto YouTube at the end of last year. We're growing incrementally on YouTube. So if we can keep this pace, and then if we can get a little bit more growth and stuff, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for some form of a few of us, every big major PLE or pay-per-view, to end up on site with each other. I was
Mm,
supposed to go to WrestleMania and be with Spencer and them last week. Just some life things didn't work out, so I couldn't go. But
mm,
like, I went to SummerSlam a couple years ago with Spencer. When WWE and stuff are around Boston, I get the luxury of going and covering those for the website and for the shows and things like that. Like, so I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when. Um, and hopefully sooner than later with Pluggo. Obviously, I mean that with like, I would love to meet you too, and I would love to meet Josh and all these people.
mm.
Um, but when we're talking specifically about Pluggo, because he is the one that I have the closest relationship with, like, I would like to meet that guy in real life. I feel like I feel like nothing would change. It would be the exact same as it is now. We would just actually be like, holy crap, like, I'm putting my hand on your shoulder. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Instead of just
Yeah.
like, hi, Pluggo, how are you? You know? But yeah, I think it'll happen. Potentially later this year. SummerSlam's in Cleveland. That's not far from him for him. It's not a terrible plane ride for me. Maybe. We'll see.
Mm.
We'll see how it goes. I don't want to
Yeah.
throw anything out there when it might not happen, but we'll see. Hopefully later this year.
Mm. That's very, very cool, my friend. So we've given a lot of love to Pluggo and things like that. But how do you start firmly AEW with the great man that is Drew Nicholas as well?
Love Drew. Love Drew. Um, yeah, so I had been looking to kind of jump back into the AEW coverage. Like I said, I started on this website, started doing content with Love Wrestling, and it was AEW based. It was AEW NXT. We called it the War Report because that's when they were going against each other
Mm.
before. Um, and then that show, the franchise had left Love Wrestling, kind of stepped away, and then that show became a reaction show. We did the NXT show on Tuesdays, and then we did the AEW show on Wednesdays, and I was kind of on both with different hosts each night and stuff like that. And then, you know, I had a full-time job, which was a demanding full-time job. At that point, I was doing 4 shows a week on 4 different nights after wrestling. And that's when, even for me, I was like, okay, the balance of my life is
Has
not where I
swung
needed
too
to
far
be.
one way.
Yes. Yes. And it wasn't because I didn't like covering these shows or anything like that, but it was like, hey, this is, and again, this is going to sound, I'm not doing this for money. I'm not
Mm.
doing this for money. But when you're taking 2 hours a night, 4 nights a week, on top of your full-time job, on top of having a significant other, on top of a family, on top of other things, right? Like you said, the pendulum was swinging the wrong way for me.
Mm.
And it was starting to feel like, oh, I have to watch this wrestling show because I have to do this reacts afterwards and things like that. So I kind of made the conscious decision to that the 2 hosts that I had on Tuesday night, I wanted to give them the Tuesday night show. NXT was changing to NXT 2.0. Wasn't really my vibe. We were getting away from the black and gold NXT era, which was really my favorite wrestling that has still been out in the last decade to 12 years was that
Mm.
black and gold NXT. And we were just getting away from it. NXT 2.0 was just not for me. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to watch the show regularly. I shouldn't be on this show covering it regularly. So I kind of handed that off. Um, and then I was doing Wednesday, Thursdays. And then, so I always wanted to do the NXT. The NXT show kind of fell apart once I left a little bit. Not because of me, but it just fell apart shortly after. Um, and I had always been friendly with Drew. Like
Mm.
he had been in our chats. He had popped on shows as a guest before, and I knew he watched AEW. He kind of wasn't watching WWE regularly, and AEW was his main thing. And Love Wrestling, we were looking for new contributors. We had lost a few people. They kind of went to do other things, and we were like, okay, we need some new faces on here. And I had reached out to Drew, and I said, hey, we're looking for new contributors. I know you're a big time AEW guy. I'm looking to try to talk about AEW weekly again. Me and Pluggo do, but I wanted a strictly AEW show where we
Yeah.
could deep dive into it. And I said, if you're interested, you're someone who I thought about. Like, if you're down. And he said, oh, I'm definitely interested. I would like to do more. And, you know, we started off on Thursday mornings and then we moved to Thursday, like Wednesday night for a little bit, but we've kind of found our time slot on Sunday
I
mornings at
suppose
10.
with Collision now as well.
Exactly. That was definitely part of it because we were doing Thursday afternoons because you only had you only had Dynamite to view. Like Rampage was on, but that's kind of a second tier show for them. But like you really only had Dynamite you were talking about. So we did Thursday mornings. Everybody's doing Wednesdays after the show. Let them do their thing. We'll have a Thursday morning show where hopefully we can get more viewers. Then Collision comes about. And now you have a show on Wednesday you got to talk about. And now you have a show on Saturday you have to talk about. So we said, all right, let's do Sunday mornings. We can talk about both shows, head into the new week. Boom, boom. And it's been pretty good for us. The people are watching us. We have a good viewership every week. People are engaged in the chat. And I like Drew. He's a different cat. Drew's very laid back like me. So the vibe is a lot different. We get passionate. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
I would say it's a more laid back show than Beards. Beards can be wild at times.
Oh, I've been on.
Oh yeah. Beards can be wild at times. It's unpredictable. Not saying that firmly can't be here or there. Drew sang a couple weeks ago. I dressed up as Orange Cassidy for
I've seen that.
Halloween. You know what I mean? Like we have fun. It's a fun show. It's just me and Drew, I think, are two more laid back people. So like it's a lot more yeah, I would say it's a more, I'm not gonna say structured because me and Pluggo, as much as we appear not to be structured, that's by design. That's by design. We're much more structured than you guys think. I probably shouldn't have said that publicly, but we're much
No,
more
you put that
structured
into the
than
universe. That's not.
I know. I probably should have just stayed quiet, but like we're much more structured than comes across on screen, me and Pluggo. Whereas Drew, I just think it comes across that way because that's just who we are as people. We know what we want to talk about. We have in-depth conversations about it. We ask each other. We're really good at like asking each other probing questions about how we're feeling. You know, like it's a good vibe because I feel like it's with two people that I genuinely care about and I like talking about, but they're two different feelings of a show to me. And I think that's a good vibe for me because I get to be, you know, I don't know. I just like the dichotomy of it. I like it. I like how Thursday's kind of the wild, you don't know what can happen type show. And then Sunday's the show where if you're an AEW fan and you want to hear some really good in-depth analysis and really dive deep into AEW, you know that's what you're going to get. Whereas Thursday, you're like, oh, I like, we're filming on a Thursday afternoon. Tonight's Beards, right? So tonight, most people are going to be like, oh, they're going to talk about WrestleMania. They're going to talk about Dynamite and the footage from the CM Punk thing last night and all this stuff. You know what we're going to be talking about on Beards, but you don't know how we're going to be doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's
And
a
you
lot
never know
more.
who's going to show up either.
Exactly. Whereas firmly AEW is more of a, okay, you know what you're going to get, but it's still so effing good, you know?
Yeah, I fully understand what you're saying there, Jay. So as we look at wrapping this up, because like I said, I do want to be respectful of your time.
Oh, no problem,
We
man.
talked about burnout, as a wrestling fan. What about burnout as a creator? How do you deal with that?
Knock on wood, Tom. Haven't felt it yet. Haven't felt it yet. The only times that I've felt burnout is when it's come to like watching the stuff. I've never felt burnout on the creator side of it. Like even if I'm having an off week and I wake up at 8 o'clock on a Sunday and I'm like, oh damn, I would just like this Sunday to go to a brunch, get a little day tipsy, feel a good time. I don't want to do my show. Like I've never felt that way. I've never felt that way. The only times I've really felt burnout is if it's like, I don't know. I had a tough Wednesday at work and then I get home and all I want to do is, play some video games or just chill out, watch a TV show with the lady. I don't really want to watch wrestling. That's when I felt burnout sometimes. I've never felt burnout when it comes to creating. I could be better at it. Like I stream on the side on my own Twitch channel. I stream a lot of video games, mainly MLB The Show, but we play some Madden, some other sports games, WWE. There's some story games thrown in there. So I stream a lot. I don't get burnt out there either. I know I can be better when it comes to stuff like that. Like I like the content I create. The people that watch me say I'm very engaging and I'm fun and I'm good at it. You're always your worst critic. Like I think I suck.
100%.
But like
I'm gonna look back at this interview and be like, well, that sucked.
Well, I talked most of it, so I hope you don't. No, I'm just kidding. But
no, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
right?
I know. Yeah. But that's how I am too, right? I think everybody kind of has that. Like you're never gonna think you're as good as people might tell you because it's you. You're never gonna You're never going to be like, yeah, you're right, I am the best. Like, very rarely are you going to feel that way. But like, I feel like I could do more. Like, I have a YouTube, don't put videos out there at all. I need to. I know I need to, but I don't. I have a
Mm.
TikTok, barely use it. Not because I don't want to, but I'm not great at editing. I don't know how to really do it. Sorry guys. I don't know how to edit. I'm not great at it. So I don't, it's not a burnout when it comes to content creation. The thing that gets in my head and kind of F's with me is the thing that kind of F's with me is I know I need to and should be doing more on
Mm.
a content creation side of things. And I get in my own way. And it's not that I don't have the time to do more. It's I get in my own head where I'm like, well, you don't know how to do that, so you're just not going to do it. Like, I could put videos up on YouTube. It's not hard. You just download it and upload it. It's not hard to do, Tom. You do it with your interview. Like, it's not terribly hard to do. But
Mm.
I know that like that's not my wheelhouse. I'm not good at editing. I'm not good at trimming stuff. Like, I don't know how to do. I could learn, but I don't know. I get more in my head about you should be doing more as opposed to you're doing too much. You're burnt out. If that
Mm.
makes sense.
Yeah,
So
100%. So that leads me quite nicely to you talked about doing more there. What are some of your goals for 2024 as we record this at the start of April?
well, I mean, I told you at kind of off air before we started here, like, so currently I do not have a job. I
I
left my
didn't want to
job.
bring that up in
No,
case we
that's
needed
okay.
to talk
No,
about it.
we don't have to dive deep into it, but currently I am not working. Don't feel bad for me. I am fine. I am fine. Trust me. Like, I feel more clear and more better now in this moment that I did a couple weeks ago. So like,
Mm.
mentally, physically, it was something that needed to happen because I was, it is what it is. But at the same time, you know, it's different. It's different, right? I I would love to succeed in this realm, and I feel like I am. I feel like people know who I am that I never even envisioned to know who I am, right?
Mm.
And that's because of the outlet of Love Wrestling and Spencer taking a chance on me 3 years ago and believing in me as a person and me as what I could bring to a show weekly. There, it's kind of like a joke, but it's not a joke. Like, Between Two Beards is the flagship show of Love Wrestling. That is the show that
Oh, it is.
if you follow Love Wrestling, Between Two Beards is the main content show. That's what that is. That's who we
Mm.
are. We are the main show. Now, we weren't always the main show. We got there from hard work. Me and Pluggo spend we're not the only person in the space that does that. I don't want to say that, you know what it is like, Tom. But
Yeah.
like, me and Pluggo work our asses off. We're talking every day. We spend hours and hours and hours a week discussing who we're going to have on, what we're going to talk about, what is this bit that we want to do, what is this, what is that, blah blah blah. Pluggo even more than me, because Pluggo is the main guy behind the social media aspect of Beards. I don't do a lot. And
It's
I
a
will
joke.
openly admit,
It's a joke between me and you of like, you want to come on, message Plugger.
yeah, yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, that's not because, and again, my time is more open now. So I probably will be doing more of that to kind of take a load off of him because he has a full-time job too. And he's got 4 kids. So he's got more going on than I do, even when I had a job. Right. So like, I want to be more fair with that, but he's really good at it, man.
Mm.
If you follow us at B2 Beards on all social media platforms, go follow us everywhere.
We'll
Thank you.
get there.
Oh, I know we will, but do that now. But like, he's really good at it. He's very funny. He has the funny gifs. He has the fun. Is it GIF? 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 I don't know.
I say
And
gift personally.
okay, he has the funny gifs. He has the funny memes. Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. He's all over it. I know that even if I was trying, I wouldn't be as good as him.
Yeah.
So, but my goals are I would love to be a full-time content creator by the end of this year. That would be a big time goal for me. Now, again, we just talked about it. That would involve me getting off my ass a little bit and doing more on my own side of things. Love
Yeah.
Wrestling. We have people that help us there. Pluggo helps me there on Between Two Beards. When I'm talking strictly like the JPJ Loves Gaming side of it and things like that, that's on me. I can't expect other people to help me there. That's on
Mm.
me to be more confident, learn some shit, and do some shit. And that's part of the goals for me. But like, I just want to continue to have fun, dude. I want to meet cool people. I want to do more of this. I got to get myself more out there to be on other shows, I think, is what I need to do. I need to like put the highlight reel out there and say, hey, I've been doing this for 3 years. I've been doing that for a couple years. Like, you got a podcast? Get me on there, man. I can
Mm.
look at this. You said 10 words total, probably, like in your questions
No,
and
no,
this
no.
whole thing.
Oh,
I
no,
can
no.
chat I'm Italian, dude. I've been fighting for airtime my whole life. So
Mm-hmm.
like I can talk to the wall. So I think just getting myself more out there and being confident, sometimes I know I come off as this confident guy, and a part of me is that confident guy. But like also like part of the reason why I haven't thrown the highlight reel out there and asked to be on other shows is because part of my brain goes, who the hell wants
Yeah.
me on their show? Truly,
Yeah.
who the hell wants me on their show? When in reality, I've been told by multiple people that like, dude, you're good. You should like try to do more shit, but you
Mm.
get in your own way. So sorry, all my answers are long winded, Tom. I apologize,
Dude,
but
it's content.
yeah,
I love it. You know that.
I know, but I just feel like you asked me one question and I'm just 10 minutes. I'm just going everywhere. That's just
Oh,
who I am.
please,
But
dude. Don't even worry.
if I had to pick a big goal, it would be to become a full time content creator by the end of this year. If you were
Mm.
talking about a mini goal, just do more stuff.
Mm.
Just stop being not scared because I'm not scared, but like stop being,
Apprehensive?
yeah, maybe I don't know.
I think
I
that's a
wouldn't say
word.
I'm not nervous or scared about things. I don't know. I just need to get past that. I got to kick that wall down in my
Mm.
brain. That's just like, dude, just do it. What are you scared of? The most random ass shit, Tom, blows up on social media and becomes viral since the most
Yeah.
random stuff. So what am I afraid of putting a clip of me playing MLB? Like why don't I do that more?
God knows.
And
No, but
exactly.
I do see your point. I do see your point because I think I was told this by someone that I am in the process of hopefully getting a conversation with, but I do not want to put it out into the universe in case it doesn't happen. I'll tell you off camera, but I don't want to. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So they basically said to me, Tom, you've achieved more than anyone else maybe has because you put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's all it is. The best
Yeah.
quote I ever heard was, "You you don't start anything by thinking about it." Essentially,
Yep. Yeah. That's good. That's good advice. Whoever told you that is good advice.
I will
And
tell you off camera. I
all
do
right.
not want
Yeah. And
to.
I just think that's it for me. If this could become a full time thing by the end of this year or even sooner, if God forbid I caught a break or whatever, God bless, man. I got time. I got
Mm,
time. The next few months, there's gonna be full time streaming JPJ, and there's gonna be hopefully me popping on more things like this because I'm gonna have the time. So it's really
mm,
making use of the time, investing the time in my not only in the other people that I want to work with, but myself. Because if I don't buy in on myself, nobody. I look at it like a stock market, man.
yeah, I know
If you
exactly what
don't
you mean.
if you don't invest or you don't believe in yourself, why is anybody going to put anything down on you?
Mm.
Why am I investing in you, Tom, if you, Tom, don't believe in yourself? Not saying you don't, but you know what I mean.
I know what you
Like,
mean. I
yeah.
don't in
So,
some ways, but I do know what you
but
mean.
I think we all feel that way sometimes, Tom. Every
Hey,
we're all
I think my
humans.
work sucks. I'm
Yeah,
not
well,
gonna
you're
lie.
crazy because it doesn't. Because people wouldn't want to be doing interviews with you if that were the case. You
I
know,
know, I know.
people
But
wouldn't
there
be
are
reaching
times
out to
though.
me. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Say that again.
I was gonna say people wouldn't be reaching out to Pluggo and I asking, "Hey, do you have a guest next Thursday? I would like to come on."
Mm,
Like people wouldn't be reaching out to Pluggo and I if they didn't see something good in Pluggo and I.
mm,
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
why do I feel like I have proof in the pudding? You reached out to Pluggo last week and asked to be on Beards. We have the lovely Mr. Warren Hayes coming back on the show for the first time tonight. He reached out to us and said, "Hey guys, I'm free on Thursday. Can I come on?" Like that, you know what I mean? Like that is
Yeah.
something that we should look at and we should be like, "Holy crap, like we are doing something right."
Yeah.
So why don't we think that way all the time? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do see what you're saying there.
Yeah.
So as we look at wrapping this up, Jay, I have two questions for you. One we've talked about a little bit because you've talked about your goals, and then another one. The first one is, do you view your work with Love Wrestling and your work in this space as a success overall? And then what would you want your legacy to be if you stepped away tomorrow?
Yeah, I think so. 3 years is a long time, Tom. A
Mm.
lot, a lot of, lot of shows, a lot of podcasts, a lot of content creators. They don't last that. They don't last 3 years. And, every Thursday night, I've missed a handful due to vacations and life things and stuff like that. But every Thursday night at 8 p.m. on Love Wrestling, you're getting Pluggo and I, and you're getting a crazy episode of Between Two Beards. And 3 years, 150 episodes is a long time. And like, I'm very proud of that. I do consider that a success. I think, Love Wrestling, we really started on Twitch, and then we grew our audience to the point where all our shows are live on YouTube now. And
Mm.
like, we grew to the level of making money on YouTube as a site and things like that. And I think that Pluggo and I were essential in getting us to that point. It took a lot of people to help us along the way, don't get me wrong, but Pluggo and I, we were part of that success when it comes to Love Wrestling. So I think it's very successful. As far as me personally, like, I would love to see the Twitch JPJ Loves Gaming boom. But we're growing every day. I'm getting more constant viewers every day. And we're having a good time. So I would consider it a success. Yeah. Legacy. I don't know if I have a legacy. If this was the last thing I was ever doing, Tom, was this interview with you, I don't know if I have a legacy, and that's okay with me. If I were to have to pick one, I just hope that people actually people just enjoy, like, the time that they gave me, the time that they spent with me was enjoyable, whether they were disagreeing, laughing with, laughing at, or just angry at, I don't know. But I'm perfectly okay with being the disgruntled Boston Red Sox, Boston sports fan who loves wrestling and gets heated whenever you talk about Boston sports. But I don't think I have that great of a legacy that I'm handing off. But at the very least, I hope people enjoyed the experience. I'm not going anywhere, but I hope people just enjoyed the ride with me, whether that ends today, tomorrow, 10 years from now, 2 months from now, whoever knows. But as long as people enjoyed it and they kind of know that, like, I'm just a lucky dude who's a good dude. I'm an asshole sometimes, but I'm a good dude that got to talk about wrestling I mean, I can't complain. I can't
Mm.
complain at all, Tom.
I do see what you're saying completely
Yeah.
there. But as we look at wrapping this up, Jay, we are going to do a segment that I believe we did last time on the channel called Generic Questions. But I'm excited to see if your answers have changed. Basically, guys, this is the segment where I'll ask JPJ his favorite wrestling match, favorite pay per view, favorite wrestling entry, favorite tag team, and favorite wrestler. Basically, the questions I assume JPJ might be asked on social media. So now
Hmm.
he'll have a place to be like, guys, I have answered this. Please go watch this. So, what's your favorite match of all time?
I'm going to go Bailey Sasha, NXT Brooklyn.
Why does that one speak to you as a fan, my friend?
I was very much into NXT. I know I mentioned that earlier in this interview. I was very much into NXT, and I viewed Bailey. And again, we're talking post WrestleMania 40. Bailey just had her moment, and tomorrow night on SmackDown, she's going to have another moment, right?
Mm.
But I thought Bailey was the epitome of NXT Black and Gold. I thought she was. I feel like without that NXT environment, we don't ever get Bailey. I really
Mm.
feel that way. Like, that NXT crowd and the way that they clung to that hugger gimmick when she was that gimmick, it really made her who she was. And I viewed her at that time as like, this is John Cena, dude.
Yeah.
You bring this up to the main roster and you do it right. Vince did not, but you do it right. And this is John Cena. Like, this is your next John Cena, where the crowd is just the kids and the crowd are going to eat this character up for a decade. Um, and I thought the story that they had with Bailey and the other four horsewomen and having to fight them all and like get through them all. And Sasha was, no pun intended, the final boss kind of
Yeah.
for Bailey to get that moment. And I thought the crowd, we talk about crowds, that crowd ruled. And
Oh,
that
yeah.
crowd was ready for Bailey to win that match. And Sasha in that match is such a heel, stepping on her fingers during the submission, and just she just healed it up That whole match, it was an epic piece of storytelling in that match. And it was the moment that we had all been waiting for Bayley. So that is up there for me. That is up there. I would probably say that as currently constituted, that's probably my favorite match of all time.
That's very, very cool. What about your favorite pay-per-view cards, such as Double or Nothing 2019?
Oh boy. I mean, I think WrestleMania X7 or WrestleMania 17 is really good. WrestleMania 19 is really good. I think if Brock Lesnar hits that shooting star press, we're probably talking about WrestleMania 19 as the greatest WrestleMania of all time. I truly feel that way. Me personally, I was in the building at WrestleMania 14 at the Fleet Center. Now it's the Garden at the Fleet Center in Boston when Stone Cold beat Shawn Michaels. That event had the first Kane versus Undertaker match. Had The Rock versus Ken Shamrock for the IC title. Triple H versus Owen Hart for the European title. Where Sergeant Slaughter was handcuffed to China on the outside. It had a tag team title dumpster match with Terry Funk, Chainsaw Charlie, and Mankind against the New Age Outlaws. The Legion of Doom came back with Sonny as their manager during that.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm partial to that because I was there, and that was my first WrestleMania. I was a 13-year-old kid with my dad and that. So I'm very partial to that. But I think WrestleMania 17 and 19 as well. Non-WWE, it's tough. But I would say All In. What was the year that Adam Cole, was that 2021? All In 2021 with Daniel Bryan and Adam Cole?
All Out 2021, but yeah.
All Out, that's right. What did I say? All In? That's right.
Yes.
I would say All Out 2021. I called him Daniel Bryan. It's Bryan Danielson, but you know what I mean. When Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson, I thought that was great.
That thing doesn't bother me. I don't know about anyone else.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me either, but
it's the name we knew him by for like almost a decade.
I know, but like, you know, Tom, there's someone up there that's going to see that and they're going to go, Mark, what a Mark, man. He called him Daniel Bryan, loser. I'll just be like, yeah, you're right. You know, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
I still call Adam Copeland. I call him Edge 90% of the time.
I do. It's just easier.
How am I not going to do that? I've known him for Edge for 25 years.
Exactly.
What the hell?
What about your favorite wrestler's entrance theme?
Ooh. This is not an entrance. It's a group. I think Evolution has the best entrance theme of all time.
Why do they speak to you as a fan?
Well, it's Motorhead, so you're never gonna sway me on the negative side if Motorhead is involved. I just think the entrance song rules. Like, that's a song that if it was not a wrestling theme song and it was a regular song, I would have dug. And I think Motorhead, you can make, I know they're kind of Triple H's group there with his themes and stuff like that, but I think that song specifically, it's just a great song. It's just a great song. That group, when you look back on it, man, like, what a group.
Yeah.
What a group. Triple H, Flair, Orton, and Batista. That is the old school legend, the current time legend, and two future legends. All those guys are first ballot Hall of Famers, no doubt. Orton, Flair, and Triple H, you can make an argument, are three of the greatest to ever do it. Ever, period, end of story. Batista, I don't think is at that level, but he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I do, but
you think he's one of the best ever?
I've got my reasons for that. That's
fine. I'm way pro, but I love Batista. I'm way pro Batista.
Believe it or not, he was the first wrestler I ever saw. So that's why he speaks to me so much.
Yeah. And look, I love Batista. And you want to talk about great entrance music, Batista, again, also great entrance music. But yeah, I would say Evolution. I would say Evolution for me, and the NWO Black and White theme. Those two are the two that stick out to me.
That's very, very cool. You talked about Evolution as a group, but what about your favorite tag team?
Ooh. Dudley's, man. I was an ECW kid. I thought of ECW. I thought that they were the best. I know RVD was very popular, and I love RVD. But I thought the Dudley Boys were the group or team or people that came from ECW, besides Paul Heyman, that transitioned to WWE the best. RVD, the Dudleys, and Paul Heyman were really there. There's a reason why they stuck around so long, But the Dudleys, to me, one of, if not the greatest tag team of all time. Most tag team, or I don't know if that's still the case at this point, but they had the most tag team championship victories in wrestling for a long time. Hopefully it's still the same. I don't know. But yeah, no, the Dudleys were my favorite tag team of all time.
I understand what you're saying completely there. Then finally, Jay, the biggest generic question in my opinion: who's your favorite overall wrestler of all time?
Yeah, boy. Macho Man Randy Savage is my number one.
Mm.
Probably already has been, but I will say throughout my life, in the moment, the wrestler that I pulled for the most and rooted for the most was Stone Cold Steve Austin. No question.
Mm-hmm.
No question. I was as big a Stone Cold kid as you could ever find. But in totality, I think the Macho Man Randy Savage is my favorite and the greatest wrestler of all time.
That's
He is my
very,
GOAT.
that's very, very cool, my friend. So
Yeah.
as we wrap this up, Jay, obviously I want to say thank you for a great conversation. Thank you for coming back on. But the question I end this show on is, I believe as content creators, or even just people with social media, we're all sort of gonna live forever in a very, very weird way, if you think about the world. So what is one piece of content you're like, I'd like to be remembered for that? Then what is one that you're like, yuck, please forget about that?
Um, I don't know if I have any that are yuck, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I'm sure you could find a couple Beards episodes where I went on a couple rants that made me look like an idiot now. So I'm sure you could go back and find that. But I don't think I've ever released anything from a creation standpoint where I've been like, ooh, I shouldn't have done that. Are
Hmm.
there takes that I was horrifically wrong at? 1,000%. 1,000%, which made me look like a fool. But other than that, um, I feel all right about it. I feel all right about it. As far as like content that I want to be remembered by, I want to be remembered. There's a 7-minute clip that is somewhere. I think if you go all the way back to the beginnings of the Between Two Beards Twitter account, there's a
Hmm.
7-minute video of me going absolutely ham on a former New York Yankee baseball player named Paul O'Neill.
Hmm.
I would like to be remembered for that clip.
Why do you want to be remembered for that out of interest?
Because I think it speaks to who I am as a person, my diehard Boston sports fandom, my knowledge of things other than wrestling, and it tells the world how I really feel about Paul O'Neill and the New York Yankees in general. Uh,
That's
yeah,
mm,
yeah.
that's very, very cool, my friend. So, like I said, as we wrap this up, JPJ, I want to say thank you for a great conversation. Thank you for coming back on, but please promote yourself. Where can the good people
Mm.
find you, your work, etc.?
Yeah, you can find me at JPJ Loves Gaming, all one word, on all social media platforms: X, Threads, Blue Sky, on Twitch. Very importantly, we are streaming 4 to 5 times a week now for longer days in the afternoon into the evenings. MLB The Show just came out a little over a month ago. That's a game I play a lot, so we stream that a lot. Madden, we got some story games, we're playing some Red Dead 2 and stuff. But it's a good community over there, a lot of fun people, a lot of people from Love Wrestling. So if you're familiar with me from that side, there's a lot of them in there, but we're growing on a daily basis. So go give me some love over there if you could. Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on youtube.com/Love Wrestling CA. Me and Pluggo, Between Two Beards, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday mornings, same channel on YouTube. Me and Drew doing Firmly AEW. So that's where you can find me on the wrestling side of things, and then JPJ Loves Gaming on Twitch and all the social media for my own personal things. At B2 Beards, I know I said it earlier, at Firmly AEW. You can follow us on Twitter as well, and at B2 Beards on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, everywhere. You can follow me or follow us.
It, it's well worth doing, guys. Not only probably one of the hardest working people in this space, but one of the nicest as well. So
I
if you guys
appreciate
like
that.
this, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Tom Talk Fresh on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter or X. I still haven't figured out how to do this when I'm holding the mic. Or at Tom Talk Flourish. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye now.